Thank you, Mr. President. This morning when folks on the mic were saying we need to do better, that we all need to do better, and then things like what Senator Halloran did won't happen. In that moment, when he was reading that passage, I was sitting in my chair and I had a reaction on my face that I know many people up in the front in the dais saw. And it was really, Senator Slama and I were talking about this. I wish I had done better in that moment. I wish I had stood up and said something. I wish that in the real time as we were hearing this being spoken, and Speaker Arch said something similar this morning about if I had been in here, I was working on the agenda for tomorrow. If I had known he would have read it, I would have prevented this. As I was sitting in my chair listening to it in real time, my body went into that flight, fight, or freeze mode that any survivor of sexual violence understands. When something, when someone does something like that, and that was sexual harassment, period. When somebody does something like that, whether it's harassment or assault or whatever, your body goes into this fight, flight, or freeze where it's like you almost lose the faculty. And then you think later and you're kicking yourself about like, I should have done this. I would have stood up and done something different next time. Next time it'll be different. If this happens again, this is what I'll do. And you have this story that you tell yourself in your head about how you're such a tough person and this could never happen to me and I'll never let it happen to anybody else. And we all tell ourselves these things to cope with the shame and embarrassment of freezing when it happens to you, if it happens to you, when you go through something like that. The first time I was sexually assaulted was in 8th grade. And the situation, colleagues, was not super different from what Senator Halloran read on the mic yesterday. And when Senator Dover was also talking about, he supports this bill because it's good to keep little girls naive. We have to keep our girls naive and we have to let them keep their innocence. I know that's not what he was talking about when he said that. I don't think that he chose the right words. I don't think that he meant what he said. But all of the people who support bills like this, you are the same people that oppose things like comprehensive sex education, which I do think going through the games and the things that we tell ourselves after the fact, do you fight? Do you flee? Do you freeze? Do you fawn? That's another reaction that psychologists talk about people having in these situations. And when it happened to me in 8th grade for the first time, not the last, I thought for years and years and years to this day, at age 37, of what I should have done differently. And one thing I do know, and I'm sure of, is if we had had age-appropriate, medically accurate, research-based health education about healthy relationships, about our bodies, about sexual violence prevention, that might not have happened to me. It might not have happened to lots and lots of other people, including from Senator Lowe's generation when he thinks everything was really fine and dandy back then. Back when women couldn't have credit cards, back when this and that. And that is really, the reflection on that experience as an adult. Because many of you know I was very conservative as a young adult. I was the president of my college conservative group. I was on a lot of the stuff that you guys are on. And part of my evolution as a person was thinking back on that experience, and it got me involved advocating for comprehensive sex education. Senator Jen Day talked about a lot of the proven benefits.
1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. President, of making sure that kids know the facts about their bodies, the facts about their own health. One thing that she knows but didn't mention in these extemporaneous speeches that we do is that comprehensive sex education is proven to delay the onset of people's sexual debut. That means the first sexual experience they ever have, which is hopefully consensual, as mine was not. It's proven that people who get comprehensive sex education, they have sex later in life. Many of them don't do it until college in some cases, and it's more likely to be safe, it's more likely to be consensual, and that's healthier for everybody. And all of these things, Senator Albright talking about grooming, this is what's leading to grooming. No, it's people being in the dark and knowing that they can pick a victim who doesn't know how to stand up for themselves and they're not educated and they're ignorant. That is grooming. And that's proven. Thank you, Mr. President.